we want your help. We want this conversation to happen.
I want to hear your thoughts.
Sorry,
I'm telling you, because it's needed.
That's my soapbox, my friend.
No, that's all you. Mardi Gras, Carnival.
Choose your destiny.
Fat Tuesday, Ash Wednesday. That was this week. So, like, anybody want to make comments, history related or your personal experiences going to Mardi Gras? I got some beats.
Well, I mean, I'm from Louisiana, and we do, that's a big celebration that happens every year. And now
we're
I
all
guess
partiers. It's another excuse for us to have a good time.
Well, it is history linked. Now, as far as how it began in like got to New Orleans, because I think the original, it started in Mobile, I believe, was one of the main places for Mardi Gras, but New Orleans pretty much adapted it, and that's pretty much where it's been for as long as I can remember, as long as I've known. But it's just like Carnival, like it's just the people there. It's a fast that's coming.
It is
for
Carnival.
Well, it is, but is it more of a French version? Because I mean, Fat Tuesday, but Mardi is Tuesday, Gras is Fat, so it's still different. I think it's practically the same because they do a lot of the same kind of ritual.
Okay, well, what happened was some explorers way back in like 1699 landed. The reason it's Mardi Gras, they what's this guy Pierre something in Beanville? I'd have to look it up. They landed somewhere near where New Orleans is now. And they had a little celebration, and the spot that they landed, they called it Point de Mardi Gras. So it happened during that time that Carnival normally happens, but it just kind of worked into the local traditions and all that. So now it's Mardi Gras there, but Carnival in the rest of the world.
Yeah, but no, this is something this is indigenous Aboriginal history that happens to be, like because of having
it's an end of spring fest. It's an end. He's actually going to explain it in the video he's about to play.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm glad you watched it.
I don't need to. I know the guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I actually know the guy.
Oh, you know this guy.
Okay, yeah. Well, hopefully he's good on his history because
me and him have talked before about some of the stuff that I've written.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
So, but both of y'all are right. About what y'all just said.
Mine only relates to the name, not the tradition. Why it's called that there.
Yeah, y'all both are right, and so yeah, Carnival and the Return of the Sun, right? Actually,
Spring Harvest Festival.
Spring Harvest, the Return to Life.
Yeah, I wouldn't say harvest because harvest is like at the end of it.
Actually, it would be a spring planting festival.
Well, it's
excuse me. It's the end of winter. Eat all this shit that's about to thaw out and go bad.
Yeah.
And then start planting all your shit. After you've done eating, take all your seeds and all that stuff that you've prepared and go out, get it planted.
Yeah.
That's what you do starting. That's what March, Easter, the renewal of the land and all that's coming up.
The actual new year. And it's a celebration of life. The return of life, basically, the abundance, where you don't have to struggle so much through the winter where you could just walk around and grab some nuts and fruits off the tree and stuff. You got a lot more time to chill. And like you said at the beginning, it's just an excuse to party. Any excuse to party, we down with that.
Well, my question is like how it all coincides with okay, right after Mardi Gras, which is Fat Tuesday, then there's Ash Wednesday, which is like the beginning of Lent, and how it coincides with like it intertwined with
He explains this in this
Catholicism.
video. They co-opted it, They co-opted it. So now what he's gonna say in his video, he's coming from a perspective of like paganism, And me and you, Pat, we whenever people are saying paganism in a negative way, I don't necessarily agree with it. A lot of times,
Necessarily, I don't agree with it at all.
because most of the time when they're saying pagan, it's really just kind of like Aboriginal old
Yeah, it's
school
just for
stuff
them to
that
be
people
able to
did.
demonize. Yeah, they would demonize, and it's the same thing that they did with like what we were talking about earlier with the modern medicine, and now everything that was medicine before is alternative, and this is the new and good and improved part now. Like
And,
we done
and
put our spin on it, so now it's better. That's pretty
um
much what
and
they're
and
doing.
and yeah, and they co-opt everything. So it's always like, because when you go back to Constantine, when he was like, "Man, we got to do something about these Christians," they're basically winning the people. So, but we want to let them continue to do their what they're
Mm.
doing, but we want to change it to the point where it's a state religion and basically co-opted. So we'll put these new names on the same celebrations that they were doing at the same times of the year and kind of mix in some other stuff,
Yeah.
and basically that's what they
Ah,
do. And so it's like,
dude, the whole idea of the Holy Trinity was to take the monotheistic explanation of God and turn it into a trinity because that made it more appealing to the tribal people, the Germanics, and other than that, who had always been pantheologists. They couldn't wrap around, oh, you mean one God? Oh, no, I can't conceive of that. Oh, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, a Trinity, three who are. Oh, yeah, I can get into that. I
and
get
and
that.
and whenever they, I grew up very religious, and the Holy Trinity, the way they explain it in the church, I always had a problem with it. It's like, help me understand it. I kept on asking them, like, please, it's not making sense to me. There's like, it's God and it's Jesus and it's the Holy Spirit. It's like, come
Yeah,
on,
they
you're
left
making
out they left out the most fertile
it
part
makes
of
my
it. Like
it makes my
the,
brain hurt because it doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry, my
because it's I
logical
mean
brain,
because
it hurts.
it's really symbolic. Because I mean, if you go to the original Trinity, like I mean, the fertility of the female, which would be like none of us would be without. They totally left out of the whole thing, which makes no sense. Like
It's
if the Holy Spirit, okay, like all of us have a Holy Spirit, if you want to call it that, the God particle that we all, our soul or whatever. But I mean, still in all, like, why is the woman left out?
yeah, yeah. And there
Like,
goes the cross. There goes the two phalluses, and there goes Ash Wednesday with the history of that,
Hey,
and then
I'm not knocking any religion or practice or anything like that, but as a server, I'm a little creeped out as I serve people who have that little ash thing on there.
yeah, I worked that day too, and it was a lot of people that came in, and it
I
creeped
mean,
me out a bit too. It
I'm
just makes
not
me
knocking
feel
it.
it makes me
It's just
feel a bit
odd.
uneasy. And I've gone
Yeah.
to Catholic churches. I've gone to Catholic
well,
churches. I've done the drink the grape juice and eat the cracker, and I've done all of
I'm
that.
Hey
more than
man, if
freaked
you
out
need
by it because it's
exercise
a
on a
more
Sunday,
symbolic. I'm more freaked out by it because it's more symbolic of you know, something against God than for God.
and
To
that's
to me,
and that's where it's the co-opted thing, that's confusion that they have with it. And again, I'm not trying to knock anybody, but if they really
but
understand
can we
the
keep it
history
real
of it,
though?
it
We
goes
can't.
it goes be even this practice is before Catholicism was even a thing.
What
So
does?
the thing with the ash.
Yeah, but no, because see, but because like I said, I mean, just like because you said when we came in with the because I mean, you talking about the movement from the Ankh to the current cross, right? Like that's that's one aspect of it. But like I said, when we're talking about nature, God and nature are pretty much the same thing. Um, and you're taking out one of the main, like, I mean, if there wasn't any women, then like there's no men.
You gotta
Like,
have
so
the
how
womb. You gotta have the phallus and the womb for to have the Trinity, for it to have life forever.
to have the son? Like the son doesn't come without the mother. Like
Or
if we
child.
if even if we put the man and woman here together, there's no child without the man and the woman. Like it
And
doesn't happen.
that's the problem. So it really,
well,
and I
even
see
if
the
you just
cross.
consider it the Father, the Son, the Mother, the Moon, and the Child, the Earth, that's
That's
still a
all good.
Trinity.
That's all good. I'm all good with that. But I see the cross as death. I see it as two phalluses. They put the cross when they bury people. They put the cross. In the old cartoons, remember, like somebody died, they would put the X over their eyes, the little X. The little cross over their eyes. You know, it's and
Who?
then you've got the
What
idea of
who?
Jesus on the cross. Jesus on the cross, that he was crucified on the cross, that he died there. Like, come on. I mean,
Supposedly.
if you're just going by the story, it still fits as far as death. Let me play some of his video. He starts off really good until he starts getting into
Time where you see a lot of denominations of Christianity putting cross on their where they begin Lent and they give up certain things, and it's supposed to be very Christian, very religious, and so this is the thing, I love it. There's been so many people out there recently attacking Hebrew roots, and as I'm about to say in a future video, is that these people are doing so much work for us. I mean, they are just putting so much of the spotlight on Torah that they have no idea. And I get all the emails. I get the emails from people who are like, "Oh my goodness, I never even knew this was out there until such and such warned me about it." So, but and the reason is because these people are under attack, and the only thing they can do is to attack back, and it just brings. Everyone loves a train wreck. Everyone loves a fist fight, and when they break out, when they happen, people pay attention. And so, Mardi Gras, which happens today, and then Ash Wednesday, which happens tomorrow, these things are rooted in pagan sun god worship. There is no doubt about it. Anyone who argues is either a liar or they don't know. They haven't done the research. That's your two options. Mardi Gras, Ash Wednesday, Easter, it's all rooted in pagan sun god worship. And those who say otherwise are either lying to you or they don't know. They're just uneducated. So just Mardi Gras,
Can you make that
otherwise known throughout the
smaller
world as
on your
Carnival.
page? It
Carnival
will use less
means
resources
farewell to meat.
and it won't skip as much.
like that.
Yeah,
Now, there's a number
that should stop some of the
of
skipping.
reasons why it's called farewell. But as a natural person, as someone who lives grid, who harvests my own food, grow my gardens, and harvest my own animals, I have a better understanding of this because I've done some of it, and I'm taking the things in the Bible into account. And plus history. It's good to know history. Those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it, right? So Carnival, farewell to meat. This happens in springtime because during the winter time and fall and early spring, but during this time right now and before, the world is your refrigerator. Did you know that? See, they didn't have electricity back then. They didn't have refrigeration. They didn't have indoor plumbing. So right now and previously, in the months previous, the world is your refrigerator, and so you can feast on fresh meat. But see, there's a thing. When you kill the animal and you make a steak, whatever's left over isn't going to last forever if the temperature warms up. But see, you can make it last a long time in the winter because you can freeze it. Amazing. But see, spring approaches, warmer temperatures approach, well, now you got a problem. Because when you butcher an animal, you have to eat it a lot quicker. Because if you don't, it's going to spoil. This is basic stuff. But see, we take it for granted because we're so used to our conveniences and comforts of the American lifestyle, Western style, that we have forgotten all this. So Carnival, meaning farewell to meat, meant that now's the time to feast. Now's the time to get that fresh meat from your harvesting, from your kills, and from the animals, the livestock that you've raised. Because it's going away. And so feasting, one of the reasons why they're feasting is because after Christmas, after the winter solstice, you have a certain amount of time where the sun starts to get a little bit higher in that sky every day. And it's return of the sun, bringing with it springtime, the return of life. You ask anyone who's an expert on either Carnival or Mardi Gras, because really they're the same thing. Carnival or Mardi Gras, they say, what's the meaning? What's the purpose of Mardi Gras? What's the purpose of Carnival? The same answer will be given every single time. It's a celebration of life. A celebration of life. Why is it a celebration of life, my friends? It's because they worship the return of the sun, which brought life. Springtime. It's just, see, you can start putting these things together, two and two together. It's not that hard. But some people don't like the idea that the things associated with their church, or associated with their denomination, associated from birth with their faith, are actually linked to pagan sun god worship. And the people who do know it, they find it uncomfortable, an uncomfortable reality at offending people, at telling them the truth. Even in our movement. I don't want to tell people this, Zach. It may offend them. And then I can't get them into our church. I can't get them to be a donor is what they're really saying. So this whole thing, pagan sun god worship, Carnival, Mardi Gras. The rest of the world calls it Carnival. People in the United States call it Mardi Gras. It starts when? After Christmas. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Mardi Gras website. And this Mardi Gras website is MardiGrasNewOrleans.com. This is the official Mardi Gras website. And you can see right here from the schedule, it starts on January 5th. The first event that they hold for their Mardi Gras season is on January 5th, right after Christmas. January 5th. It's called the Fools of Misrule. Fools of Misrule. And this begins the long season up until Mardi Gras. All the events, all the days, during all the weeks, all the way until Mardi Gras. And today we're just a couple. But during these times, so let's parade. A parade. The parade night called the Crew of Chewbacca. Right back to Nimrod. And you're like, well, Zach, how is that possible? It's Chewbacca. That's Star Wars. It has nothing to do with Nimrod. Well, actually, it does. See, this is a book called Bacchanal. Bacchanal, right here. And this book, Bacchanal, was written by a who did a study on the history of Carnival.
You want to make a comment? Somebody wanted to make a comment?
No. I was just laughing because he said that.
And in many places throughout the world, it's called Bacchanal, after the Roman god Bacchus, who was a god of revelry and of wine. And so Bacchus, if you do the translation for it, Barcus, meaning we know what Bar means, son of, Barcus, son of Cush. Who was the son of Cush? It was Nimrod. Nimrod was the son of Cush, Barcus. Bacchanal, Bacchus. It's all related. Well, why is Bacchus related with Mardi Gras? Well, it's sun god worship. It goes right back to sun god worship. We'll keep proving this over and over again as we go. But yeah, one I have here is called Chewbacca, to kind of get to be trained. Star Wars Bacchus, the crew of Bacchus. It's called the Chewbacca, to make it trendy. That's one of that's Nimrod. Nimrod right there in the Mardi Gras parade. It's a parade. I mean, see, it doesn't take a lot, again, of smarts to put all this together. The other parades is the crew. This is one of the main parades leading up to, just because this happened just a couple days ago, leading up to the actual Mardi Gras, which will be on Tuesday, tomorrow. This is called the Crew of Isis parade. And it's one of the major parades during Mardi Gras. And Isis was a goddess of Egypt. And were temple of Ra, a sun god worshiping temple in Egypt. You see, they worship Isis because it's a sun god worship. It goes right back to Egypt. And they're doing it during Mardi Gras. Why? Because Mardi Gras are all linked to sun god worship. Again, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. The dots connect if you will let them.
I have to add something to that part as far as the egg, because it's about new life, also. And it's also the egg of life, the tree of life. There's a geometry related to this. And, it just goes way back. The egg representing, new life.
The rabbit, fertility.
If you will let them. When you go and you look at day, and we're about to come across in a couple of days, you will see, even on the Wikipedia page, it says related to Mardi Gras and Carnival. Mardi Gras and Carnival, because they're all related. Mardi Gras and Carnival start after the winter solstice, because after the winter solstice, you have that sun getting higher in the sky every single day. It's a return of the sun. It's a celebration of the sun. And it was usually celebrated with a lot of orgies and, promiscuity and things like that. And the Roman Church eventually came in and said, okay, we understand you're worshiping the sun. That's fine. But you have to stop it at this point, because now we're going to Christianize it. And after this point, this certain day, we're going to prepare you for Easter, which is actually the spring equinox, because they wanted to Christianize the actual spring equinox and bring all of these people underneath the Roman Church. So you can keep your festivals, you can keep your bacchanal, you can keep all of your festivities that you're doing, but on this day, it's going to end. And you have to do this and this and this and this to prepare for the spring equinox, when the sun gets to its point that it needs to get to. Okay, the equal of the earth. Okay, that's when it started. And you have, all the. Look at this painting. This is the painting I wanted to show you. So this is written by a guy named painted by a guy named Carl. I can't pronounce his last name. Spitzweg. And so this painting right here is a painting he did on Mardi Gras or Carnival. Now notice the painting. Okay, this is, I think, done back in the 1800s, and it's a guy in a clown suit, in a party suit. He's partying. He's dressed up for a party, and he's depressed. Why is he depressed? It's because the party's over. The party's over. Oh, and look at the window. What's coming through the window? It's rays from the sun, because they're there to celebrate the party. It's the party to celebrate the return of the sun. It's about God worship. And this guy, the party's over. Oh, I guess I have to cheer. Now Lynn Rome up the party. It goes all about sun. So you look up, when you start doing your research, you'll find all links: Ash Wednesday, Carnival, Mardi Gras, and when you do the work, you all stuff back to sun god in both Babylon and in Egypt. Babylon and Egypt. Isis, her name is spelled with an egg. Have always been symbols of fertility. Every single Egyptian book of the dead, and you will find that according to the Egyptians, the dead, the earth and the sun from an egg. So when you get for your get to Easter, it's Easter
Pause
time.
it for a
How do we
second.
celebrate Easter? With an egg. It's all linked together.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's got your resources stretched. Let your resources stretch up to a little bit. But this is the point where he's starting to stretch a little bit, kind of like he did with the Bacchus stuff. So you were talking about how he's going to be stretching a little bit because we're coming up to his explanation with Jesus Christ. And I was basically doing that to fill a few seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was planning on ending it right after he talked about the eggs.
Yeah, I was just doing that so to kind of fill a little bit of time while your resources caught up. It shouldn't skip now for the rest of it.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna play the whole thing because at the end he starts going into the New Testament and he really kind of lost me. It was a little bit of a stretch, and just like the other part where you said at the beginning, but most of this is pretty damn accurate. I just think that his understanding is just a little bit off on some of this, but his information is good.
This is the kind of stuff that I use to write my game worlds, religions, and stuff like that. It's a good chunk of the truth, a little bit of twists, and a whole lot of entertainment.
Yeah. So, but the thing with the eggs is so interesting with Easter because whenever I was a kid, and because my dad used to say, he was like, "What the hell does the eggs have to do with anything?" He was like, and he would be like, "Rabbits don't even lay eggs." Like the whole thing is bizarre.
I know Easter actually goes all the way back to Isis, but I don't remember anything about eggs. I mean, with Isis, that might be because I also haven't been. Oh, going back before Isis. Okay.
Well, the name.
I don't know if it was before them or not, but it wasn't really Isis. It was
Isis
it was spelled like goddess. Ishtar, but it's actually pronounced Easter. So, and she was just a goddess that pretty much
fertility
She represented fertility. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe Isis was one of her aspects.
Right. So the whole thing with Easter and the eggs always never made sense to me, and the rabbits.
But if you think about it, last year with you guys.
Yeah, I think we did. And I was
talking about this all last year. I remember it.
But if you look at it as fertility, and the return of the sun, the actual New Year and all of that, then it makes sense. But when you're looking at it through the church, then it just doesn't make any sense at all. It's all lost in translation.
Yeah, because I mean, the main thing was for them to denounce the previous rulership and to give a new narrative in which they stood on. But it was always conflict. But I mean, that's mostly you find a bunch of conflict in Christianity based on its narrative, at least this version.
If you think about it, if it isn't directly translated from Aramaic, isn't it hearsay? I mean, it's been changed. Definitely. Like the all the Bibles right now, the current ones are based off of the NIV Bible, which is a rewrite of the King James Bible, which is a rewrite of another Bible, which was a rewrite of the Catholic Bible. And at that time, the Catholic Bible had pulled the Apocrypha out, not to mention the 23 or 20-something chapters that were removed from the original printer guy. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now, but the guy that invented the printing machine printed the Bible, and that's completely different from the ones we see now.
And then it goes back to the what was it? The scrolls, the lost scrolls,
the canon conferences too. What is canon? What is not?
And then it goes before that.
Language, but see, when you're talking about language, Aramaic is just another dialect of Arabic. Aramaic
Yes, but when you're talking about New Testament, that is the language that Jesus spoke. So those stories, if they're not told in Aramaic and in the area and in the language of his time, technically would be hearsay.
And I say I always say this, and I've said it many times. I just throw the whole New Testament away. I swear to God. But
I don't.
But like
I'm a follower of his teachings, not his word, not some of the crazy shit.
Well, it's like you say, hearsay.
Good words. He went to the east.
Apostle of John. All these people, these were written way after Jesus. They're supposed to have been Jesus' buddies or something, like way after Jesus was supposed to have even been. Like, no, come on, man.
You have to understand. The stories were handed down and written years after. The people actually lived during that time. That's like bards and stuff like that back in the day.
But the Dead Sea Scrolls still don't really have much to do with it.
Not the New Testament.
Here's an interesting thing. Jesus disappeared for what, 10, 20 years? 12, 15 years, whatever. He supposedly went east into the deserts. It sounds to me like this Judaism-based guy went past the desert into the earth, east. He learned reflexology. He learned Reiki. He learned spiritual aspects of Buddhism and Hinduism, which were beginning over at that time.
Yoga.
And he brought that Eastern stuff back.
Yeah.
And integrated it, and bam, all of a sudden now we have a new twist on Christianity.
And I like that. I really like the idea that the missing time of Jesus was when he was studying, and that was a common thing that people did in those days,
But is it possible that he could have went so far in the East that he ended up in the West, what we consider the West?
No, not at that time.
Well, and I have problems with the Jesus story anyway, if it even ever really happened, or if it was multiple people, if it was
it's about 7 different people from what I can think of.
Yeah.
From what I can tell.
Yeah, I did a show about that. And but what I was saying about the Dead Sea Scrolls, and you can go as far back as the Book of the Dead, which this guy mentioned, from Egypt, which is even older.
Hey, let me tell you about a short story I wrote.
The Book of Ra, Amun Ra, it's like the Bible is pretty much plagiarized from it. I mean, it's just like revamping the stories from different periods of time, which we can call it plagiarism as if it's a crime, but it's really updating it for that particular time, because either way, religion from 1,000,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, to 100 years ago has always been designed for one thing, and that was control.
Period.
No.
Yeah.
At first, it was mankind's way of trying to explain what the hell is going on.
Yes.
I agree with that in some ways.
And then it became campfire stories. And at that point, the elders had to start teaching you, don't go out in the lightning storm because you're going to get hit by lightning and die.
Right.
Why? Because there is an angry God in the air. Not just because, listen to me, you little motherfucker. No, there's an angry God in the air. He's going to strike you down if you do stupid things.
And this is
that's how it became about control.
And because also that's the way you teach. You use what do you call it? The stories that you tell that may not be true, but the point of it is to teach you a lesson that's going to help you in your life.
Fables, parables.
Yes, because but that's one way to learn the Bible, because it's really, when you really get into the depths of it, it's a science book. you know, like when you really learning, like, you
Hey,
know,
that's what got
esoteric.
Galileo friggin' killed.
What?
People thinking that the Bible was a book of science.
Well,
Because
yeah, he probably got killed. He got killed because he was telling the truth.
he contradicted the Bible, and that's why
Well,
he
see,
was killed.
well, he can contradict. I mean, it's really he wasn't contradicting it because there's different levels of how to read the Bible, and that's why it's, you know, a lot of the secret societies have it, you know, have protected it in so many different ways to where like you can't even get all of the books. So I mean, I mean, he may have gotten killed for that, but he got killed for being real, for being honest, because most people don't know how to decode the Bible. So I mean, it is. I mean, you know, and everybody, look, you can take it how you want, but I mean, it's a book for you to learn from, but on different levels. I mean,
Well, you
if
gotta
you're
you
still
gotta
learning the
remember
same way,
though.
if you're an adult still learning the same way that a child is learning it through those stories, then you know you haven't really seen much growth in your
Less than 200
spirit.
years ago, we were still imprisoning and convicting and hurting people because their views or their science contradicted the Bible.
But it's time to grow,
It's
right?
Oh,
Aren't
it's
we
been
and
supposed to do?
it was time. I'll tell you the truth.
it's
Is
still happening today.
as much as I thought the bad idea, if the Muslim Empire had managed to keep Europe, we would have been to the moon 100 years before we did.
Well, they have been already.
The science of
And,
that
and
empire did not have to worry about the restrictions of the Bible and God. It was God gave us this science to learn about the world. He wants us to be more like Him. He created us in His image.